Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Swede Rolls. As usual, I'm Chris.
I'm Toby.
I'm Max.
Johan.
Yeah, and you guys are joining us for another week of interesting discussions around role-playing games, trading card games, pretty much everything involving games.
We haven't used board games yet.
Or Hunger Games.
What?
Well, I am a bit picky.
Well, I mean, we have this huge shell here filled with weapons, so once we're done with this podcast, you guys can just pick your choice, and we'll eat the first death.
Dibs for playing the old
I'm
guy.
a vegetarian.
Oh, that's
So
going
I'm
to be a
going to
problem.
eat your vegetable parts.
Oh, yeah. No, not my vegetable parts. But yeah, we're probably going to get to board games sooner or later.
Yeah.
We are considering recording that for the channel, so.
Yes.
But today, we are actually going to talk of something that's extremely meta. We're not going to talk about any kind of game. We're going to talk about how to keep your game rolling, which I believe a lot of people occasionally have problems with. You grow apart, or you have this one player that can never show up when everyone else wants to play, or there's drama, or, you know, some people use a different medium online for communications while other people use another one.
Ooh, drama alert.
Yeah. So we're going to try to basically go through some of the techniques we've learned through the years on how to keep everything rolling. And I guess we should start by saying that I'll try to cover mostly online gaming, stuff like that, like role-playing in chats and Discord and Skype, IRC, stuff like that, because I've got a lot of experience doing that. And you guys are more used to doing face-to-face role-playing. So
Yeah, I'm more used to role-playing being physical gathering of people.
Yeah.
Face-to-face, sitting down with pen and paper, or sometimes computer aid.
Yeah. I'm actually going to GM Max later.
Oh, cool.
That sounds a bit...
You're gonna, but
Stroking him currently. Stroking him.
But I mean, I'm not saying I haven't done physical role playing. I mean, we're doing the podcast.
Yeah.
But for me, I have a lot of experience trying to manage time zones, stuff like that, which problems you usually don't have when you're playing in real life with other people.
Managing time zones, can't log into Hangout. Christian.
I just got invited to Hangout. Thank you very much. If I'd known you were on Hangout, I would have been on Hangout.
I've talked about it
You
before.
have never
Christian,
talked about Hangout.
I have
Christian
talked about
will
it before.
talk about it in the car home.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Well, I won't be in the car home. Whoop whoop. Because Toby's not driving me home.
Nope.
Even though I live 5 minutes away from here by car. Anyway, which means I can just go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, playing online, usually you're not just playing with people from your own country, unless you're American. No, but we've got players from all over the place. We got American players, Canadian, English. I've had some Asian people I've been playing with. And time zones, I'd say, is the biggest issue. Because usually either your midday or your evening Saturdays are dedicated for role-playing on a weekly basis. So you're locking up an entire day for role-playing, essentially.
So, are you saying that we here in Sweden have a very different thing? Because if we want to play with the Americans, we are either... What time
Either
is
in
it?
our evening or in our mornings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you roleplay with Asians as well.
Yeah.
So
It
you...
would be the same for them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge ordeal, essentially, because we roleplay every week.
So, if I were to play online, like text adventures or whatever you call it, I would want to start by 1.
One in the afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
Not in the evenings.
Oh, no, and I guess that's how we do it with the Americans. They usually play in 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and we play in the evenings. But it's real different. I mean, I'm game mastering Eclipse Phase, which is on Fridays at 8. Every second week on Sunday evenings we play, and every week on Saturday evenings we play. So I play a lot of games, apparently.
Sometimes I wonder, how the hell do you even manage to channel and do everything of this?
Because I have dedication, Toby, and I'm also going to die by 40 from heart failure.
No life?
No, it's multitasking.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
No.
But essentially, that's a huge problem because it also means that a lot of times people will be absent because they have other plans. Weekends are generally both the easiest and the hardest time to get people together.
Yeah, right, Johan.
Like, yeah, okay. Are we gonna get into this?
No.
Yeah,
Let's get into
I have, and actually, it's related. So I have a problem showing up to this podcast when I'm invited because since like high school. I have been
Living
in high
in a
school.
shed in the middle of the
In high
woods.
school, role playing was the weekend. Like that's what you did with your
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
And now my group has a standing like Saturday role playing day, unless anything else is mentioned. Like, and it's starting actually to become a bother now, because it's unless you specify another reason, Saturday's role playing day, which kind of takes away the I want to role play part.
Yeah, it
I've
becomes an
started to
obligation.
notice it.
Yeah.
That
It's
group
more
is
like
slacking
a
off.
scheduled job.
Yes,
Then,
and I mean, I could say no and not appear.
And we're definitely going to cover that topic.
So let's get back to that later. I'm gonna be able to talk about morale.
We'll talk about it because I have some similar issues actually. So, game mastering is sometimes a chore. But absent players, that's a pretty common problem in real life too, I suppose.
Yeah, absent players are a constant thing of, everyone can show up but one. What do we do?
Yeah.
Do you continue or do you wait until the person can do it? But then the possibility of another person not being able to do anything.
Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, I think it's depending on what you went into the campaign, what your mindset was. If the mindset was we're gonna have 6 players, we're gonna play with everyone who comes. If 6 players come, that's great. If 4 players come, that's just 2 players who follow but don't interact.
Now
with
their
you.
characters are NPCs for the round.
No.
But my current Pathfinder campaign, there's 3 players, so we probably can't play without all
Any
3
of them.
players, and it's not hard to get 4 people together.
No.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing, that the larger the group, the less likely you are to have everyone able at once.
Yeah.
But the more likely you are to be able to get enough players to run
To have a decent game.
a meeting, a game night, sort of.
Yes.
And oftentimes you sort of have to adapt a bit to that. Larger groups means more interchangeable characters, less maybe focus on everyone having to be present at important moments.
I think also a big thing that really helps for Game Master if you have a big group is that if the players take some responsibility to entertain each other. I think because Martin's campaign that we talked a little bit about before, it's a lot of nobility interacting with each other. Yeah. So we're not actually being led on this adventure by the GM more as we are sort of deciding our own agenda, as it were, which means that even if some players are missing, we can still engage each other in different mediums, or we can game master each other, as it were, in smaller groups. And I think that helps a lot if you don't have all the players present, if you have that kind of a setting. But if you're doing a Pathfinder, then it's much harder because you have this goal you're going for, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel like right now, the Pathfinder group, I would like to see one more player, because the dynamic of the group would change in a different way. Yeah. Currently, we have 3 players.
I was in the group.
Toby was in the campaign, but
I want to know why he
escaped.
But personally, we were trying to find times to have start role playing. But some of the times I was busy, or some of the players were like, "Are we gonna play Pathfinder? Are we gonna play Pathfinder?" It got a little bit too much. It got a little bit too much of the annoyance to hear the people say, "Do you want to play Pathfinder?" or "Are we gonna play Pathfinder?" So I decided I don't want to hear it. I don't know.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth the hassle to every week listen to, "Are we gonna play Pathfinder?" and sometimes even 4 or 5 times in an hour. So I decided to but I'm just gonna skip.
Because 4 players is a good amount. 3 players is doable. I've usually only had 3 players in my groups. But then I have 2 active players, 1 passive in our current group, and the 2 active players are playing, let's just say, special characters that can go off in a little bit crazy side.
Yeah, I can imagine. But that's an interesting. Those are some interesting words you're using: passive and active players, for example. What do you mean by that?
I mean, some people show up to a game session wanting to play the character, wanting to interact with others, exploring the world,
doing social,
talking with NPCs and each other in character.
Yeah.
And other people just enjoy the game side of the game more, like the mechanics,
which is a
knocking down door, killing monsters. I mean, depending on the role-playing game, if you're playing D&D, that's a totally valid way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say playing Fiasco with that mindset, which is more of a
It's a very active
improvisational theater style game.
We've been very much on the role-playing side in this podcast, but role-playing with dice is also fine, like you say, depending on what game you're playing and what kind of expectations you have.
I mean, most games have rules to help people who find it awkward to try to socialize.
Yeah.
So instead of someone going up and talking to an NPC in character, like maybe Max would when he plays, they might just say to me, I want to achieve this. And I say, okay, roll your diplomacy. Yeah. And then we together tell the tale of what happens, but we don't actually say all the words, we don't actually interact with characters.
It's interesting. In Martin's campaign, we generally have to play out what we're doing, which I think can sort of scare away some players. Like you're saying, if you feel uncomfortable in social situations, then being put on the spot like that might actually sort of make it not worth the effort of going. That would actually be an interesting thing to discuss when we're talking about self-improvement for role-playing, which is going to be in the next podcast.
But let me shoot one question back to you.
Yeah.
Online gaming, I've never done that. I've suggested it, but we never tried it in my group because it's never been needed really. But do you find it hard to set the mood and like get into characters because you're not in the same room interacting?
Copy paste a YouTube link, listen to this music, now we play.
It's not super hard.
I mean, Eclipse Phase could probably be done better by text to speech.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah, Eclipse Phase, I still argue, is the best role-playing game that you can't play. Because it is too complex. It's too complex.
But the story!
It's always great.
I've bought the books and cried over them.
I'm kickstarting the second edition right now, against my better knowing, because I love my Eclipse Phase campaign, but we are not adhering 100% to the story, because it's unplayable, basically, unless everyone is super duper read up on the setting. But it depends really. If you're playing with microphones, then it's almost exactly the same as playing in real life. With the addition that you can turn off the microphone if you're having a giggle fit, for example, if you want to set a serious mood. But as a GM, I've realized that you have to be way more railroady when you're playing online. Because hints in your body language, the kind of banter between the players when they're discussing what to do, it's not as present in online role-playing.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I don't do that, because I can't read the text and interpret how the person feels or whatever, or what they're trying to do. I have no clue. Sometimes I've read a text about a compliment, or someone gave me a compliment on something, but I took it entirely the wrong way, and I thought they were like really sarcastic or being even evil. And I'm like, I think I'm wrong in this? But it could be something else?
That's a big problem with online role-playing, is that it's easy to create drama.
90% of communication is like not verbal.
Yeah, exactly.
So I work as a teacher, and when you like mail parents about their children, for example,
you have to be very
I'm
clear.
extremely clear. And I've never had an issue with parents, because I think partially because of my role-playing experience, I have way to communicate emotion in the text.
Yeah.
But my colleagues don't have that capacity sometimes. They just end up in these situations with parents for no reason.
Yeah, you have to have this ability to convey a message without using loaded words, essentially. I have the same experience as a teacher. Like, some of my colleagues just got into fights with parents. I'm like, how? Just don't formulate yourself like this.
Exactly. Don't say these vague things like, oh, your son was bad at the test. Like,
explain exactly what he did.
Yeah, exactly. What does bad mean? Your bad might be my good.
That, I feel, is online drama a different kind of beast from real life drama, because it is usually 95% of it is from misunderstanding. And real life drama can, of course, is usually from misunderstanding too. But I've had some conflicts in some groups I've been in where we haven't had the same expectations from the game. And that's been a huge source of stress for me if as a GM I put in a lot of energy and the players are goofing around, or as a player I'm goofing around and the GM, like, it's hard. You don't have the same idea of the game as the GM does.
Yeah.
Max, have you had that kind of problem in your group? Or
largely we've been playing together so long in one of the groups that it's not an issue. We know each other well enough. And I think that's something that comes with time. If you play with the same people for a long time, you learn to be specific to those people.
Yeah.
You can be very precise with the sort of in-group lingo.
Yeah, you develop your own language. Yeah.
I've been part of several smaller groups that have been playing a single campaign and then disbanded. There it's much harder. There you actually have to sit down and talk about it before you start playing, maybe even before you start planning to play. And that is sometimes a chore, but it needs to be done. Because if people go into it with different expectations, like you said, it turns into a mess.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
People might not think it, but role-playing games do take a lot of planning and a lot of, what's the word?
They are very time-consuming.
They are.
I actually learned this recently when I started playing Pathfinder. I haven't played Pathfinder that much, or GM'd it rather, or played it at all. So I started this campaign about 1.5 years ago, maybe with Max and the other guys.
It's still
I just
going
wanted,
on.
like, my outset was, I want this simple thing. I've been watching basically Critical Role, which made me hankering for a little D&D action. And I wanted, like, this simple thing, and just, like, session 1 or 2 or 3 with the group, I was like, oh god. First of all, I have played the least Pathfinder of all these guys, except for Toby. Second of all, I'm not prepared for these guys. Like, they are doing heavy duty.
They were more into the meta than you were.
Yeah, so much more into the meta. I mean, I've been struggling personally with that. We had a conversation like 2 weeks ago, I think, where I came out talking about what I thought, my thoughts about the campaign, that I kind of want to end it because I thought it was a struggle for me to GM it and enjoy it. But then talking with the guys, and they seem to enjoy it. So it's mostly in my head.
And that's an important thing, like communicating with your players, because so many times I've felt insufficient as a game master. And I feel like players really have to understand that it's a cooperative thing going on. If they're not giving, then the game master has to carry everything on their own, and it becomes a chore. It becomes really hard to keep it all floating, especially if you don't get any input from the players, right? If they just say, good game, and then they leave, you have no idea if they actually enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a collective storytelling effort.
Yeah.
So we had actually a concrete example. We had a situation where I planned up that the group is going to go to a place. The way they're going to get there is by a magical airship. And I don't know Pathfinder that well. So I set up this thing where they get this quest to go to this place in the airship. It's my thinking. And 2 of the players immediately go, oh, we can find a scroll of Windwalk and just buy 3 of those and go there. Like, oh fuck, my entire session planning just lost the whole setup for the campaign.
And you don't want to be just like, no, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in that case, I actually was like, no, you can't, because I had...
We're all out of scrolls.
I had shit planned for this.
Yeah.
And now I would probably have more like going, no, they don't have any scrolls. Or something. But, so I just said, like, I didn't plan for this. I didn't know this was a thing.
Please don't ruin my adventure.
Yeah, and I remember Max going like, yeah, sure, let's not do this. Just go with the flow. Like, you can't break the session to have a discussion in the current, like, oh, shit, I didn't know this. If I would have known this, I mean, I don't want to railroad everybody, but I had this plan made up. Like, if you do this, there's going to be lots of shit going sideways, and you're going to miss a few other stuff you can enjoy.
And it's fine to be honest with your players, right? You can't predict everything that's going to happen.
I mean, it might break immersion a little bit. So, hold on. I need to break from this and just say, this is not at all what I planned, so can we please not do that?
Yeah.
Even though it makes sense in the world, could you please not? Is still something a GM has to be able to say, because otherwise later it just turns into a huge mess.
Basically, if you let stuff like that happen under the surface, it will fester.
Yeah.
And you will have emotional issues sitting with your group and GMing if you feel like you're turning against them because they're outthinking you or outruling you.
It starts becoming players versus GM.
Also, specifically for this group. So
there aren't
2 of them have basically memorized the rules.
I mean, yes, they know the rules, and they ask me, are we playing with these rules? But they're not rules lawyering me. They're not saying, I should be able to do this because of this. We have had a discussion, we had it last session, about taking 10 on knowledge rolls, and what does knowledge rolls entitle you to do. And
taking
we
10
have
means you take the time to actually think about it.
We share opinions, and Max actually changed my perspective on, for example, magic item creation and stuff.
That had just a short note on take 10. Take 10 actually means you're in a stress-free environment. It doesn't mean you take more time.
Because the book is not really clear.
No, that's good, because I think it's also different from editions, because I think 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons was like, it's still stressless situations, but take 20 was, I think that was even an option.
That's the thing, like, for all gaming systems,
Little details,
they're going to have rules, And there's going to be discussion about the details. Yeah. Rules as written, rules as intended.
It's why I don't have a grappling rule. Like, I don't allow grappling in my campaign because I just have memories of Pathfinder 3.5. Just grappling, everyone looking through the book, being like, okay, and what happens now? Like, if you have a system that's so complicated that you have to stop the game.
Okay.
We had a thing about grappling recently.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, yeah.
Automatically grappled. What happens if I teleport?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, we have this guy who can teleport. He's grappled. He doesn't need to cast a spell, so it's not... You're going to have to roll with the rules. I have actually broken immersion one more time. This was like 2 years ago, I think. I was running a one-shot horror session. Yeah. And one of the players go, okay, I'm just going to run out into the woods. And I just paused, looked at him. Okay, if you do this, you know you're leaving the campaign, the session. You're not going to be able to play anymore. I'm not forcing you into the adventure again. If you're running into the woods, you're going to disappear. He was like, oh, sure, fine. That's what my character is going to do.
Yeah, okay.
And that was fine. Like, we left it at that.
He rolled a new character?
No. He just sat at the couch and reading the book and listening to the other guys play. And, like, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But these things, absolutely, like, there's not going to be rules for everything. You're going to get into a conflict. And if people, like we talked about before, have different expectations, that's when the clash starts.
Communication is important.
So naturally onto communication. Thank you very much for that. We talked a little bit previously about how to communicate. There's so many different things out there. Discord, which is replacing Skype, for example. I play over IRC or IRC or however you want to pronounce that.
No.
That's just for tradition's sake. It's not superior in any way imaginable. It's just text-based.
Some say it is superior.
Well, they are free to have that opinion. There's also Roll20, which is this website that allows you to create maps with actual lighting. So you can build walls, so the players move their tokens around. They can't actually see what's around the corner, stuff like that.
I've seen that being played on Twitch, I think.
We tried it a bit.
Roll20 is fun.
Also did.
I also actually GM'd with that.
I can definitely recommend a Roll20 if you're playing a game that's using miniatures. If you're not, then it's overkill, I feel. But it allows you to play music in the background, for example, which was a welcome addition to my game. And I have my wife, she roleplays very frequently over Final Fantasy XIV, which is completely GM-less. She has like a guild for roleplaying, and they have guild leaders, sort of GMs, but that's kind of a roleplaying that's way beyond what we're used to. We just improv role-playing just out of nowhere, and it's like one-on-one and one or two and things like that. There's very many different ways of playing.
In my current campaign with the group that I'm in, it turns into that a lot because the kind of campaign it turns into a lot of character interaction within the group. So it turns into a lot of two characters having a discussion rather than the whole party going somewhere and doing something, even though both occur.
I mean, it's important to have that, to have these moments where you're playing instead of rolling, as it were.
It requires a certain kind of group, though, and I think it's more of a thing when there are more of us there, because it's one of those groups where it can be 6-7 people.
The GM can't focus on all of you. So
like two of us just pair off and start discussing something that our characters would discuss. And maybe we come back to the group with it after we've discussed it. Yeah. But it's something that happens quite naturally.
Actually, that's one of the things I don't like. I mean, I played sessions where 4 players and 2 players start talking in character with each other. Or you have a GM setting up a session with 1 player because the player is off camera or doing something in between sessions or so. I'm actually a big believer in, even if your character is alone in a room talking to an NPC, that should be done at a table with other people, even if what you're discussing might be backstabbing the other players. If there has some sort of great value to the story to have it secret, I think you should do it. But I think all interactions should be like in front of the camera, in front of the group. So I like when 2 players talk to each other, but I think they should do it in front of the group instead. I mean, that depends. If you have 6 players, people are going to talk to each other.
In Martin's campaign, again, we're going to go back to that a lot of times, but we had this culture of going away with the GM for like half an hour, planning things out, and then he would take the other player for half an hour. And it was so ingrained in the group, right, that nobody questioned it. So you'd have people sitting for an hour and a half together, not really doing anything because the plot wasn't progressing. And eventually we just went, okay, that's not allowed. Because like you say, you're taking out a lot of the entertaining things is knowing stuff that your character doesn't know, right? So if you're going to get backstabbed, then you can just witness, like, you'd be like, oh shit, I can't act on this.
Yeah. I mean, a good player will be able to hear stuff about his character or her character, or the plots of another player, and not act on those. Like, not meta game, taking the knowledge that the person knows into the game. I think it's more fun where everyone gets to enjoy the game, knowing everything. Just think of watching a movie and someone just cuts out every scene without Samwise Gamgee in it.
With the bad guys
in Lord of the
plotting,
Rings.
yeah.
Like, imagine Lord of the Rings trilogy just following Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
It's going to be boring as fuck, and you're not going to see any of the cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden Aragorn pops up.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to stress that this is not leaving the group and discussing something. No. This is just discussions that occurred due to two characters wanting to discuss something.
I mean, I think those are fine.
And it could be quite inane things.
Yeah.
And if it was relevant to the plot, it would be introduced to the group as such.
But that's where I think it's fun. All discussion should be like centered. I mean, it's fine depending on the size of the group, because if you have 6 players, if 2 of them are talking about non-essential things, sure, I don't actually have an issue with that. But I, as a GM, think it's fun to hear my players talking characters about non-essential things, basically playing their characters.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a thing that makes me enjoy role-playing.
Yeah.
And I can agree with that.
Yeah. But as I said, depending on if you have 8 players, of course you can't now you're talking about switching diapers on this child. Yeah. Let's focus for 25 minutes, everyone.
But I think also if you have 8 players, you might actually want to have to do some pruning to your group.
I mean, I'm giving it.
No. But I think this is an important issue too. A lot of times, if you're in a situation where you can't really pick and choose who you're playing with, depending on geographical location or whatever, you have to really set these ground rules down, right? Especially if you're a grown-up with grown-up obligations. What are we expecting from these 4 hours every month? Or what do I want from you guys?
4 hours?
Yeah, 4 or 5 hour sessions.
Oh, boy.
Well, you guys play longer, I know. But on the other hand, you also live geographically closer to each other. Used to, anyway.
Well, actually, we should maybe put this up there as well. I've never had another group. I mean, I've played with different people, but the group I started with, my friends in high school, that's still my group that I play with. So I've never had the thing where you have to find a group or search for people on, I don't know, Craigslist or forums to find a playing group in your area. I've never done that, so I have no experience in that.
And I'll be honest, every time I've tried to find a group online, a completely new group, it usually ends with me leaving it. Because they have such a vastly different culture of role-playing than what I'm used to. So I make this kind of, is it worth it? Do I really want to change my entire way of role-playing to suit this group? For example, Black Crusade, which is the Chaos version of Warhammer 40k role-playing. I joined this group, and instantly I was like, okay, there's some drama going on here. There's one guy who wants to go super-duper role-playing. There's one who wants to go Space Marine optimized. I don't really think this group has a good dynamics going, and I just left because no, it's not worth my time.
My experience in that field has usually been I find people who are interested in role playing, and we sit down for a session or something.
Yeah. I mean,
So that has not been actively looking. It's just been usually through school or something similar. I find a group of people that are like, "Oh, you do role playing as well?"
Yeah.
Well, we should maybe try something. Do you have a group or so?
Yeah.
And we meet up, and, well, most of the time it's been a short campaign of some sort.
Yeah.
And that's been that.
I think that's so valuable to have that session of not playing, but actually talking and setting boundaries and making schedules. And it's very hard online to do that because some people are flaky online, and they're not going to show up. But usually what I'm used to is the GM going, okay, this is what you need to make your character, but they don't go, this is how we're going to play. This is what you're going to play. And I think this is a crucial mistake for any GM to be like, okay, these are the rules. But also tell everyone, these are the rules for how we're going to play. These are the boundaries within which we're going to play.
I can agree with that scheduling, that's become more and more an issue as I've become older, I guess. But looking at it, I often try to protest if someone says, "Oh, let's play every other week this day."
No.
I go, no.
Yeah.
I'm not agreeing to that.
I was just about to say that because when I wanted to run this Pathfinder campaign I'm currently running, I have my normal play group. The other guy, Johan there, he really wants to play Pathfinder. When I brought the idea up to him that, I'm kind of interested in playing Pathfinder, he's like, F, yes.
He's like really
and the other two
into
players are not
Pathfinder.
interested in the leveling the D20 system at all. They don't want that part of role-playing. So we can't play Pathfinder in that group. So basically, it ended up with me at the Magic table saying, hey, I'm thinking of playing Pathfinder. And then we have Max and Martin and Toby that said, sure.
Big mistake.
I mean, and yes, here's the problem though, because we're all grown-up people.
Yeah.
The weekend is 2 days, or 3 days if you count Friday afternoons.
Yeah.
And it's been sad that now the discussion is, I have this day off. Magic or Pathfinder?
Yeah.
That's the current theme of our...
I've noticed that recent weeks, when it hasn't been Magic, because we usually play Magic like each other week.
Yeah, it's basically
or,
Fridays.
Yeah, Friday is like Magic Day. But recently there has been like a week between the Magic sessions. It feels a lot less hectic for some reason.
Yeah, but that's... I went out with that when I started the campaign, that I want to play 1 to 2 times a month Pathfinder. Like 1 session each month, or 2 sessions. Something like that. And that was the start. And then we actually broke that pretty fast, because it was fun. I thought it was really fun to have new players, new system, like a new campaign.
I wasn't in the first session, but I was in the second one.
Yeah.
And, well, apparently I was the under-leveled bastard of the group.
I mean, yeah, that's different. Not scheduling issues, though.
But you, like you mentioned that one person really liked the rules stuff and the 2 others didn't. I've played Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons online, and I never really sat down to learn the rules because I had a friend who was all about making characters, right?
Yeah.
So I basically gave him my idea for character, and I was like, okay, you make the stats for this character, because I don't care. And when I level up, you can handle the leveling, because I don't care.
Oh, good.
And he did it. He enjoyed it. And of course, he made a completely broken character that killed everything that moved, which was not what I'd hoped for. But it did show that our GM was very nice when making encounters.
I mean, I didn't appreciate that part of Pathfinder before I started GMing.
No.
Then I looked at these guys' characters. Some of them have very intricate builds, like they're planning levels ahead. So I started getting into that, and it's really like... And we have Max, who just goes along with...
He wins it.
Like, I'm gonna summon stuff, and in 4 levels, they might have tentacles. Like, that's basically
That's
Max.
planning. That's good planning.
So I started getting into builds, and like, it's pretty fun. It's the same thing as Magic, if you listen to our other pod. Like, you can work out some math, you can do some planning. Different builds are going to be good at different things.
I mean, don't do the math.
No, but you know, we have the other Johan who threatened me with playing a battle stripper, which is basically someone specialized at jumping on people and then disarming everything.
Stealing everything, even what they're wearing.
Because it's a loophole in the rule system.
My God.
Combined with...
does he also make a peasant railgun? Or?
Well,
it's a feature, not a bug.
I also threaten him with just ending the campaign if I see a battle stripper.
That's where you got to set down the foot, especially now that you're adult. Your time is precious, right?
Yeah.
You have to visit your parents on the weekend sometimes. You didn't have to do that shit. And if I have a player like that who's really just dead set on going his own way, I'd be like, okay, you know what? Find your own group, because I don't want to GM that.
Yeah.
This is often in jest, I think.
Absolutely. But it can create this kind of rift in the group. Because
if it was serious, it would be a problem, and we'd have to discuss that.
Yeah.
But I think actually the part about we're being older now, like 28 to 30.
I'm 31.
31. And
old bastard.
27 to 31. I mean, you work, you have a few days off, and actually, more lately, I've been feeling like I want something achieved. I can sit home and watch a movie or play computer games. If I'm going to dedicate my Saturdays to this, I want to be entertained. Like,
you want to have a good time.
Yeah, I want to feel like I don't have to I did everything. My character won. I mean, as I said.
Not about winning, it's about enjoying the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Last session, basically, in my Saturday group, ended up with me on a disco floor being pummeled to death by an ogre.
What?
And I actually said this to the GM afterwards. I'm sad because I actually wish my character would have died. Because then that would be a fun part of the campaign.
Yeah, that would be a historic event.
The story thing.
I've noticed that in that group, it's very hard to die.
Yeah, that's actually
because
true.
In that group specifically, it's the same people. I've been in the group. I haven't role-played in that group for like 5 years.
I mean, that's my fault, though. I've been GMing, and I'm way too scared to kill my players.
I killed your character.
I know, and I think that's fun. Like, I should kill my characters.
You're
more.
one of the 2 people I've killed a character for.
The problem here is being... I've discussed this before. I don't really care if my character dies, loses a limb or whatever.
Yeah.
But it always seems like, oh, that happened, push the die a bit, he misses. And it's like...
But I think...
Actually, you missed the last campaign with that group that I GM'd when they just TPK'd. Actually, that was the saddest moment I thought of ending role-playing.
Oh,
which one?
Because I was GMing this campaign that we were stuck. The players weren't doing anything. They weren't progressing in the story. And I don't know why. So I tried to drop hints in the game. I dropped hints out the game. I gave them ideas what they can do, and still they staggered. And then they found this vampire guy. Mm-hmm. So I tell them in-game, you know from lore that this is usually a really hard enemy. This can kill, because they're monster hunters, this can kill an entire group of monster hunters, lore-wise. Mm-hmm. And out-game I said that I won't plan this shit. Plan it really carefully. And then they went there to scout to see if the guy was a vampire, which they found out he was. Mm-hmm. So they decided to sleep there. And during the night, they heard some noises, so they decided to go and investigate. Sword in hand investigation. They found out, oh god, there's something going on here. Well, okay, let's just improvise a fight against this guy who we were told we really need to plan our approach, we really need to lure up, and we really need to set up the battlefield. Let's just bumble around in his manor or house and try to kill him. And then just vampire guy appears, takes a sword to the chest like, oh, hello there, and then starts to stab everyone to death.
I think the lesson to learn here, unfortunately, and it really hurts as a GM, is that you shouldn't, and I've learned this in my times, you shouldn't plan out too much, because it's not going to turn out the way you expect it to be, and there's going to be stuff happening that you realize when you're GMing that it's a waste of time to do this, or that you underestimated or overestimated the players. Set down basic guidelines. This is what I like about the final sanction scenario that we're playing, that there's several different objectives. It's not about doing everything, and you get rewards based on what you do, but it gives you guys some freedom to act, and not everything is super important. This is the Death Watch campaign.
I mean, I think my Pathfinding campaign has become a reaction to that campaign. I have no plans for my character for the campaign. Like, these guys, they choose what to do. Yeah. They have set their own goals, and they pick their own quests. I just throw shit at them.
As long as you're having fun.
There's a meta plot.
Yeah. But as long as you're having fun, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's also, like we were in a bit on this, how much do the characters progress the story and how much is just GM driven?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That in a more free setting, it's more driven by the characters, by the players, rather than the game master. And I think that shows in this case that we're doing things. We have goals in the Pathfinder group. Our characters have goals, and they're going to work to achieve them. And you can react to that instead of just saying, okay, this happens. This forces you to go slay a dragon. That sort of world.
I mean, outside you just tell your players, I want you to have a goal. I want you to have like this in your bag. Something, a plot hook. Yeah. As a GM, it's not hard to railroad.
No, it's not. We have been talking for a long time, actually. And we have actually covered most of what I wrote down in one way or another. There's tons of different ways of communicating with each other. I think that the key here is communicating, right? I think that's what we're
trying to communicate in any manner is better than not.
Yeah, exactly. And being honest about your expectations.
Trying to find a common platform for communication is both very difficult, but it's also very nice if you manage it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I can realize it's a real problem for some groups, where some people have Facebook, some people have Hangout, some people have Discord, but it's not a single one that everyone in the group has. And that can be a real problem. I know in my other group, most of us have Facebook connected to the group. The people who don't, it becomes more of an issue of like, someone has to text them about it, or it becomes an issue, and it would be great if everyone could join the same thing.
It would be very good if you decide to make a role-playing group or anything like that. you can always like, okay, how are we gonna communicate?
Yeah.
Because Hangout, Discord,
join Hangout.
Hangout, Discord, IRC, Facebook, whatever
it is,
all of them are free.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be a problem joining any of them.
Actually, as an end note, I think finding a way to communicate is pretty easy in today's society.
Yeah.
Like, there's everywhere communication. This is my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I think if you're the GM, it is actually, you're supposed to be the person who goes to every player asking, can you do this on this time? So you start somewhere and you try to get the players, of course, have to respond. They have to be open to communication, but it's you as the GMs at the time, the dates, and ask the players.
But in return, I feel like the players have to cut the GM some slack. And
that
have
too,
to
and
be cooperative. And also to the other players. Like,
I think the content of the communication is more important than where you do it. You should have the same idea of what you want to do. So that's the way you keep your campaign going. If you have the same idea, what you want to get out of your role-playing sessions. If someone shows up and I just want to roll dice and have fun and like, derp, derp, derp. And everyone else we want this serious discussion about the meta plot and the dark side of humanity.
And not roll dice at all.
Yeah, and like, then you're going to have a conflict. Because this one guy is going to go around doing herp, derp, derp. And everyone wants to be like Batman. Really serious into the dark shit. And you have to communicate about that before.
That is an important thing. Because if you don't, then you end up with a campaign where that player is unengaged. Or it feels like he doesn't get listened to or something like that. So communication is key to keeping it flowing. And mutual understood expectations.
Cooperation,
yeah.
Like, communication is necessary for cooperation, but cooperation is necessary to keep a campaign, or a group even, it might not even be a single campaign, going.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's like a dress-up party. There should be a theme. When you send out the invitations, there should be, it's ancient Greece or it's a horror movie theme. So people don't show up looking like Tinkerbell on your horror movie theme party.
But they can look
first of all, tomatoes. They can be evil.
My point being that everyone should have the same expectation. Then you won't have as much issues.
Yeah. Which I think is why so many campaigns tank after a few sessions. Because lack of expectations.
Lack of planning beforehand.
Yeah.
The ones that have actually tanked for me have been scheduling. That a part of the group wants to play more often or wants to schedule play, and a part of it doesn't.
And I just have to go in here and say that is complete opposite for online playing, because there you have to schedule it. Because if you don't, then people will not show up, they will plan other things. If you go... It's very easy for communication online to die out, because a lot of times you're not actually physically knowing this person. You're online buddies, and online interaction by nature is more flexible and is less solid, I feel.
A little question for you then. Have you tried some kind of role-playing online that is asynchronous?
That continues?
Like, you post something to this, and someone later, maybe hours, maybe even days later...
It's really good.
Returns with, I respond in this way.
Yeah. Play by forum is, I don't do it anymore, but we used to have a very active role-playing community for RPG WW is still around. It started out as a fan community to a comic, but there essentially it's very flexible because you respond when you can. The problem there is that if you're not a frequent visitor, you can miss stuff going on. There's a lot of backlogging to do, and character interaction, the kind of natural talking and banter, it's almost impossible to do because you have to be online at the same time. So there's a disadvantage to that, but it's very flexible.
And also you have to remind yourself to press the refresh button.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, nothing will happen, and you're going to sit there hours later. What's happening? No one's writing back.
But play by post is fun, and it's very rewarding because you can take your time to really formulate what you want to get across. But it has its downsides too.
Yeah, I was just curious because we were discussing online role-playing and we hadn't really touched on that style. And I was curious if you had any experience with it.
I'd say if you set down rules, like for example, everyone has to reply before the GM can go to the next turn. If you do it like a turn kind of based thing, I think that will work really well as long as everyone checks at least once a day or once a week or however you want to do it. But it's going to be much slower than actual role-playing.
Because I've seen ones that are GM-less and do that as well.
Oh yeah,
where you cooperatively write the story. Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, we have like a role-playing community based on an online comic where we played our own characters. And it was basically just you made a thread for an event and then people just created this event together. So there could be 20 people playing, 3 would be interacting through here, 3 would be interacting through there. I've also done live role-playing like that through online role-playing and in games. I had a community that basically created a story together in Google Docs. And everyone just came in whenever and filled out some information. There would be some interaction between 2 players. We'd work it into the main document. It works, absolutely.
Oh my god, I can imagine someone going in there. No, I don't want to roleplay anymore. Control A.
But you can backlog. All these changes are saved.
Okay, good.
If you're online, it seems everyone has to be more interested into the storytelling part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And less about the mechanics and the monster killing.
I think a mechanics-driven game would be nearly impossible to run that way because it would take a long time to get anything done.
Wouldn't you just choose a game that has mechanics then? Like you would go into Neverwinter Nights 2 or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, even in
because
that case,
you can storytell in Neverwinter Nights, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, because I remember Vampire, not Bloodlines, but the other one was based sort of on the Neverwinter Nights kind of game master, whatever.
Yeah,
but you could go to something that already has.
It's possible to do it, but it seems the way Christian is talking about it, it's more about collective storytelling.
Yeah,
focus.
Absolutely.
If you're posting in forum posts, it's going to be bigger blocks of information.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the back and forth with the tavern innkeeper.
Because a huge downside of that would be, for example, me explaining what I'm going to do, then the GM checking if I can do it or not, then I'd either have to go back and change my post or I'd have to make a new post. It's very janky in that way. But I've seen countless of times where it works. Play-by-post is a very solid way of creating good stories. So I can definitely recommend it if you get your group together to do something like that. It's going to be much better story-wise than physically playing together. But it's going to take some tinkering, making sure everyone's on track with what's going on.
Yeah, I was just told that was something we haven't really touched on. I felt it was necessary to bring it up.
Yeah, it was good to bring it up.
I have this...
Toby turned off the recording 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
No, but we probably have to stop there.
Yeah. We can definitely have another podcast about this topic. I feel. There's
probably
so much to talk about. And then we'll never have it.
Probably not.
My group is not playing next Saturday as well.
And then we failed to schedule it.
Next Saturday we might have to play Deathwatch again.
Oh, damn. I don't want to.
Why not?
Because, like, Gene Stealer from above, we pick up this from here next
Little
time.
did you know that the Gene Stealer yelled, "Strike from the skies, brother."
You know where I got these cars.
Okay. No, well, anyway. So, thank you all for watching, and keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Thank you for listening to Swede Rolls. Your support means the world to us. The music you heard playing at the start and the end of this episode is Fireside Tales by Darren Curtis. The intent of this podcast is to discuss themes and issues in all manner of gaming, but primarily focused on the RPG genre. If you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Pay us a visit at swederolls.com, where you can also learn about the people doing this podcast and more. For our Let's Play channel, check us out at youtube.com/Swede_fighters. And until next time, keep rolling.